got from Craven County Economic Development. Jeff Wood is going to present an economic development presentation from Craven County and talk to us a little bit about why everything I just said was wrong. And Craven County is absolutely a different place. So.
Good. And I don't have a formal presentation. I thought I'd just kind of talk through some of the things that have been going on over the past couple of years. So especially from a macro level, one thing about Craven County, and I think this speaks of North Carolina, but I've monitored Craven County more than anybody else for obvious reasons. But during the pandemic, we did fare better than most when it comes to the unemployment rate. You know, we were typically 2 to 3 points lower than the national average during the peak of the pandemic layoffs. Our manufacturers came back online fairly quickly. We had the defense industry that helped us obviously in Craven County. I think that from an Eastern North Carolina standpoint, including New Bern, our tourism is a little bit more local than some of the heavy hit areas like you look at Orlando or Myrtle Beach last year. So I think it was actually in some situations we were helped by people staying closer to home and going out. Not perfect, it was still hurt. My wife actually is in the hospitality industry and she measures hotel businesses from Ohio to Florida, and so I can't say for that we did well, but we fared better. So overall, with that situation going on, and then not to mention the fact that a lot of people were using their extra income to buy things like dishwashers, we did well and are coming out of it strong. We've had some investments that were announced. We're going to have some more investments that are going to be announced later this year. Of course, the one that everyone noticed was Hatteras being bought by Bass Pro Shops. You know, I do know that there were probably a few folks that were concerned about that from a workforce development standpoint. I'd like to point out that I think there are some people that they're going to be competitive in their workforce, but they are looking for shipbuilders more than anything else. That'll be you know, 188 jobs saved, and then they'll increase to about 500 jobs over 5 years. The reason I got into economic development was those jobs saved. Growing up in the coal fields of West Virginia, you saw what layoffs could do, and it was a good day to see 188 people know that their livelihoods were taken care of. That was one announcement. The other one is in the defense industry. A week later, ASI, which is a supply chain management company, a prime contractor for the Department of Defense, and has significant foreign military sales, invested about $5.5 million into our industrial park. They're going to create about, 30 jobs over 5 years. And we've seen a lot of strengths in Craven County in that arena. In the past 2 years, we've had about 6 projects that have invested into our industrial park that equal about $16.5 million worth of investment, and including ASI, looking at about 100 jobs that have happened all in the same area. We still own about 30 some acres of property. We have a developer that we've sold some property to. They sold their building before it could even be built, which is kind of common in Craven County. Not only do we have a labor shortage, but we have a real estate shortage, something else that we're looking at or dealing with, as well as increase in raw materials, both for infrastructure as well as buildings. So, but the demand continues to move forward. Most of our job creation still is with existing industry, looking to try to figure out how to continue to grow, as they have for the better part of a decade or more than a decade in Craven County. So, one of the things, of course, we've worked on our job fair. We provide specialized training through the Volt Center. We work with Rashima, who I think's on tonight. Matter of fact, she had a job fair or a hiring event for Hatteras just yesterday. But one of the things that we're doing through the Craven 100 Alliance is a people attraction campaign. Small amount of money to get started, just to see whether it would work or not. And that's about $50,000 in our budget. And we've hired a marketing firm to look at particularly Google ads, but advertising in general through social media. And so a company can come to us and say, we have these positions that are available. Typically, they're going to be skilled positions because they're looking at relocation opportunities. but we'll advertise those through Google Ads anywhere in the country so that it's a burden that they don't have to go out and try to figure out how to budget immediately, and act as a test drive. We tried to hit places like Pittsburgh in January where maybe you would want to see where blue collar meets the beach. And so, I think that a lot of what we're looking at, whether it's the billions of dollars in construction for I-42, the billions of dollars that are in construction for the military bases that are coming in, or the hundreds of millions of dollars that have been invested into our manufacturing sector. And I think we're going to continue to see Craven County and Eastern North Carolina as a place that people are going to want to invest. When you look at the outside world, I can say this publicly, our industrial park, we're selling property at $20,000 an acre because that's the market value. We don't want to compete with the private sector too much, so we try to sell it at that flat rate. I've met with several developers and private firms looking for end use. It's a good price. Even though we have a quantity issue when it comes to workforce, we have a quality workforce, everything we've heard from our industry side, and our wages are competitive. And so I think that's going to continue to attract investment on the private sector side into Eastern North Carolina. And so really and my thought would be it's more of a branding issue of people knowing that we're here and that those jobs are available and that we're an attractive place to be. One of the investments we had of the 6 that I mentioned is a company by the name of Kimac. Andy Schneider is the owner of that company. He moved it from New Jersey during the pandemic. He was calling me trying to figure out what essential employer meant, or company. It became, as everybody on the Zoom tonight, I'm sure we all became CDC specialists, OSHA specialists last year. But he moved his company from New Jersey here. He supplies pumps to the natural gas, the petrochemical industry, utilities, very successful. And I asked him why he moved here. And he said that he was planning on moving to Wilmington. A friend of him had told him about New Bern. He moved here and fell in love with it, particularly after Hurricane Florence. And he saw how people picked themselves up. And his quote, we actually made him say it in front of a journalist at the Sun Journal, so that they would pick it up. Americana still exists in Craven County. And I think that's true. And I think that's going to be, I think the investment community and the business community is noticing that. So we have to figure out how to get people to realize that too. We're going to have more people move here. I've had a few folks concerned about me saying things like that. They like it the way it is, and they don't want to grow. And I appreciate that concern. I can say I've been doing this for 20 years. In an economic development or an economy in general, you are either moving forward or backward. There is no staying. And so I think looking at marketing for specific kind of skilled positions, trying to figure out unskilled positions as well, and figuring out how to grow that population in a smart way is at least something worth a try that we're going to have to figure out as our groups continue to grow. I wonder from a macro level how some of these things will continue to grow. We've kind of hit a situation where we had a lot of pent up demand and how long that will last. But the 2 investments that I mentioned earlier are very strategic within the Department of Defense and the purchase of Hatteras. And so I don't think those kinds of growth opportunities are going to go away anytime soon. So that's kind of a quick overview of what's going on in Craven County and what we're doing to try to tackle some of the things that you guys were talking about just a few minutes ago. I wish I had the solution for these things, but I think everybody on the Zoom tonight or the meeting tonight, GoToMeeting tonight, will agree there's not going to be an easy fix for some of these things. It's by far the strangest economy I've ever seen, and probably everybody would agree with that as well. But I can answer any questions if you like, but that's some things that we're throwing out there right now to see what sticks.
Hey Jeff, this is Carl Earl. Good to see you. Quick question on How significant do you think availability of affordable housing will be as you seek to attract more people to the region to fulfill the opportunities there?
I think it's going to be, especially for the unskilled piece, we're going to have affordable housing. We do have an apartment complex of a new housing development going up in West New Bern. That product is now underway. We see houses moving in in Carolina Colors, and that's going to be roughly in your 180 to 250,000 range. Although I can say, just for material cost alone, although timber's starting to drop a little bit, that you're seeing houses go for tens of thousands of dollars more than what they would have been, just a couple of years ago when I moved here. And so some of those things are going to have to settle down, I would assume, at some point in time. But housing is going to be an issue for us. One of the things that I've tried to do, our focus on incentives and negotiations have always been industrial by nature, and it'll continue to be that way. But that doesn't stop me from marketing our investment opportunities. And I'm working with Weyerhaeuser at West New Bern as an example. This is something where I think we have multiple levels of investments, not just on the industrial side. Just kind of pitching that opportunity, but it's going to be another thing that we're going to have to tackle, Carl, for sure. I will say that one of the things we were looking at doing with West New Bern as they build that apartment building is work with our industry council so that their employees or potential employees know how close that is to places like Bosch and Moen.
Any other thoughts for Jeff? Carl, Mike brought that up last meeting about the housing, and I started doing a lot of poking around and thinking about that, and talk about apartment complexes and houses. And I think we've got as much non-traditional housing going on. We're seeing trailer like RV parks spring up, and we're seeing them fill year round, which is interesting. And there's actually groups out there of workers who will move from Florida to the East Coast or the North Carolina or whatever on a regular basis with whatever their portable skills are, and be able to move back and forth in different locations and actually take their RV with them. And their plan is not that that's a short-term thing, that's a lifestyle. And that was kind of interesting. And then something I never thought we'd see, but it happens a lot on the East Coast, and Frank Emery explained it to me one time, is this tiny house thought process. Thinking totally through tiny house neighborhoods and all of those kinds of things. And just, again, that completely different audience that we're trying to serve, and thinking completely different than most of us probably on this call and our traditional thinking about where you live and where you work and how your organization takes care of you. I think that we're in a different world.
And I'll say this from my office's standpoint. I actually today talked to a development / investment firm about building houses in Craven County. Provided them for information, data that I think give a company that wants to locate here. So I think from my chair standpoint and my fellow economic developers, we have to be prepared to treat some kind of investment coming into the county as an investment. And cannot sit back and say, well, we're only looking at our target industries. Well, if you're not providing housing, you don't have a workforce. If you don't have a workforce, you'll never get your target industry, because site selectors are asking me what kind of workforce development programs we have in middle school. And so you've got to get in the weeds right now and really attack some of the key factors. And there's investment opportunities there, right? I mean, the first thing that the investor asked me was, everybody has a housing shortage. Why is yours different than anybody else's? So we had to be prepared with an elevator pitch. And I gave her the same information that I gave you guys. For a 102,000 person county, we're pretty daggone diverse, from agriculture to defense to manufacturing to tourism, recreation and hospitality and retail, we have a stable economy where other places might be booming now, but your return on investment is going to be short-lived. So, I think that we got to be ready to get that pitch just like we would if a company wanted to come here or a company wants to expand and we're competing with Tennessee or Virginia or anybody else. But we're going to have to get away from that narrow vision of what economic development means and think about the overall investment.